Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hello and welcome. My name is Juliet. Kindly click on the subscribe button and also the notification bell so you'll be notified whenever I post a new video. So in this video, I will be showing you how to make this lovely blouse. It is a princess dart blouse, but in order not to make the video too long, I will link two videos down below, one on how to draft the princess dart bustier and then the other on how to pad it. So you watch those two videos and then we will continue. So right here in front of you I am drafting the princess dart bustier. This is the front part of the fabric. The only important thing, the only thing I'll be focusing on here will be the neckline. So once you've watched the other video, you will understand what I am doing here. So up here I am marking the neck width of 4 inches and the neck depth of 4 inches. So I connected the lines with my ruler and I am going to make a curve like so. So next up, from that 4 inches mark I came down by 3 inches. You can go down even lower than that if you are comfortable, but I came down by 4 inches here, and then I'm going to blend it into the neck curve as you can see. So that is it. You can go as far as your bust point or a little below your bust point depending on what you are comfortable with. I just came down by 3 inches here. So now I'm cutting. So for the neckline, we're going to cut the round part first, the 4x4 part first. Then we're going to cut out this V on the bottom part, which is going to form like a template for a bit of a yoke. I call it a yoke, but you will see in a bit. So here I have padded. This is my lining piece for the front. I used medium weight gum steel. I sewed the front pieces together and I also ironed. That's for the lining. This is the main piece, all padded. Like I said, I will link the video on how to pad the princess dart in the description box below. Here is the back piece. I have sewn the zip line and I also added my dart together, which is the nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus ½ inch. This is the main fabric for the back piece as well. Zip line sewn and dart, and also ironed. So over to the sewing. Here is the back piece right in front of us. So starting from that zip line, I'm going to mark quarter of the bust measurement I'm working with. I'm starting from the zip line and not all the way. So quarter of the bust measurement up here, and then down here I am marking quarter of the waist measurement. That's the half length round divided by 4. So I'm connecting the lines together, and then I turned it over. I'm going to repeat the same thing. From the zip line I will mark quarter of the bust measurement I'm working with, and then down here quarter of the waist measurement I'm working with. I'll connect the lines together and then I'll open it up. So here I'm going to check from one line to the other to be sure that I have half of the bust measurement I'm working with, and then down here half of the waist measurement I'm working with. So if it's not up to or it's less than, you adjust accordingly. So next up, this is the front piece. I'm placing it on top of the back piece, right sides together. I'm matching the shoulders first. I'm going to pin them, as you can see. So you notice how the front piece is standing. I am not pushing the part down. I allow it stand the way it should be. So I'm matching the center front to the center back. I pinned it together like so. So arrange your front piece properly. Don't force anything to go meet anything. Allow it to guide you, which is what I'm doing. So I'm pinning the sides. You also notice that it's not the same length, both back and front. Don't worry, everything is fine. Also, the armhole is not the same as well, but that is not going to change anything. Remember, we removed some inches from the armhole for the princess dart. So after pinning everything in place, I'll go sew on both lines and then join the shoulders together. I will also repeat the same thing for the lining. So here's the lining back. Here's the back piece of the lining. I'm marking the waist, the bust measurement and the waist measurement the same way we did for the main fabric. You're repeating exactly the same thing. We also go ahead to pin the front lining piece to the back, right sides together, and then I'll go and sew the same way we're doing the front, the main fabric. So after sewing, this is what the main fabric is looking like. I'm going to trim off the excess on the down part. That's for the back. So now both front and back are the same, and like I said, it's not going to change anything. You will see. So I'm trimming the armhole, the front armhole, so it's the same with the back. I'll do the same thing on this other side. So next, I will reduce the seam allowance to about 1.5 to 2 inches max. After which I will turn it to the right side and iron the seams. We're going to be repeating the same thing on the lining pieces. Trim off the excess on the back side and then trim the armholes such that both front and back are the same. After that, I'll reduce the seam allowances to about 2 inches. Next, I will turn it to the right side and iron the seams just like we did the main fabric. So, remember that piece we cut from the neckline? I called it the yoke. I am placing it on a net fabric. I folded it into two and I am matching the folded ends together. So the folded end of the yoke piece and then the folded end of the net. I'm pinning it in place. This is very important so it doesn't move. So next I'll be adding ½ inch allowance all around the down part of this yoke as shown on your screen. So I'm adding half inch all around. Only on this down part, the neckline side is should be the same. So I'm cutting it out. So I'm going to place it again and then cut another piece, which will serve as the lining. So that is it for the yoke. Next we are going to match them together. Let's just say right sides together, even though there's no right or wrong side here. But we're going to place them together. So pin on the upper part, which is the neckline part. I'm going to pin it all around and then go sew it using half inch allowance. So we're going to go sew it like that. So next I'm opening the zipper side of the lining and the main fabric. Here I have a piece of crepe fabric. I folded it into two. We're going to use it to cut the cape on the neckline and the peplum. But right now we're cutting the cape. So I have my main fabric here, my upper bodice here that we just made. So I folded it into two, center front to center back. So watch how I am aligning it. I'm placing it such that the necklines are flat. The rest of the blouse can remain the way it is, but make sure the neckline is laying flat and smooth. So I'm using my chalk to trace out the shape like that from the center front to the center back. This can be a little tricky, but just make sure you do it right. So after tracing out the neckline, this is what we have. I'm going to measure 3 inches for the first step. There are about 3 steps. So this first one I'm measuring 3 inches from that point, that is the shoulder point. So I measure 3 inches all the way to the center back. Then to the center front, we're just going to curve it to that point like so. So I just used my hand and just made the curve like that. But I went ahead to measure and make sure I have only 1 inch at that center front. So I'm going to curve from the shoulder point to meet that 1 inch on the center point. That is where the center back stopped. So I'm connecting it like that. Next we'll be cutting it out. So that's it for the first step. I went ahead to place it on my neckline to be sure that I'm on the right track. So this is what it's going to look like when we are done for the first step. So we need two more of these capes. So next I folded my fabric again and then I placed the first cape on it. I'm adding extra 1.5 inches all around from the shoulder point to the center back. Then coming to the center front, we're going to add an extra 1/2 inch only. So from that shoulder point, you just trace it to the center front, making sure you have about 1/2 inch at that point, at the center front point. From the shoulder to the center back, you add 1.5 inches, which is what I did. So I'm cutting that out. And then on the neckline side, on this inside, you're cutting exactly the same, as you can see. I'm going to place this again, fold the fabric and place it again to cut the third one. So we're doing the same thing. I'm adding extra 1.5 inches from the shoulder point to the center back, and then from the shoulder point to the center front. So just mark 1/2 inch on the center front and then connect like so. So I'm going to cut the inside the same as the first two. And that is it for the cutting of the capes. So next off, I have sewn the yoke piece using 1/2 inch. Like I said, I'm going to notch all around it. Then I will turn it out and give it a press. So that is it. So I'm going to set this aside for now. Also, for the cape pieces, I used hemming gum to fold them. So this is what they are looking like. I didn't want to turn them with the lining so they don't become too thick for me to join to the neckline. So for the neckline now, we're going to be placing the yokes on it, starting from the biggest one. I'm going to match it to the center front like so. So the wrong side of the yoke is facing the right side of the front piece. So that's the biggest one, then the second biggest, and then the smallest one will be on top of the two. So we're going to pin this from this center front all the way to the center back, making sure they are all properly aligned. So I'm going to do the same thing again from this center front. I'll arrange them properly and then pin to the center back on this other side. So after pinning all those together, I will take this yoke piece from the center. I will sew it to the side like so, and then sew it again to this other side. Then I'll place my lining right side to this main fabric and sew it all the way, including the zipper line. So after sewing, I ironed everything, and this is what is looking like at the moment. So that is the yoke part with the cape and then the zip line, and this is the inside and the lining. So next I will be measuring the down part. So I will measure from one end to the other, measuring everything including the zipper allowance, everything up to this point. So I'm going to divide what I got here by 6.28. So after measuring, I got 32.5 and I divided it by 6.28, and that gave me 5.1. Then I went on to subtract my half length from the full length of 24. I removed the half length, which is 15.5, and I had 8.5 left. So I added 1 to that, and that gave me 9.5. So that 9.5, I added it to the 5.1 I got, and it gave me about 14.6. Because our peplum has 3 steps, the first step is going to be 10.6 inches, the second step will be 12.6 inches, and then the longest one will be 14.6. So here is the last step, which is the one that is 10.6 inches. So I'm adding extra 1 inch to that, so we'll get a bit of excess for it to overlap because of the design in front. So instead of 10.6, I will use 11.6 to fold, and then fold again like you saw earlier. Each side will give us 11.6. So I am marking 11.6 all around here. Ignore the first time I got it wrong, so I am correcting it. That is why you're seeing 2 lines. So I marked it all around like so. Then I went on again to mark the radius, which will now be 6.1 instead of 5.1, because of the extra one we need for it to overlap. So that is what I'm doing here. I just hope I'm making sense. So I am cutting the piece now. Like I said, this is the Ankara piece. This is the shortest of all the steps. So next up, I'm cutting the crepe piece. This is the longest peplum piece. So I have the fabric folded into 2 using 15.6. We're adding 1. So it's going to be 15.6 folded into 2, as you can see. Then we'll fold again, this time around like you're seeing on the screen. And then after folding, you should still have 16.6. the extra one so we'll get an overlap. So after that, we are going to measure 16.6 all around, 15.6 rather, all the way around. So after marking the 15.6 all around, I measured 9.5 from the down and I marked it. The 9.5 is the length of our peplum plus the extra 1 inch of allowance. So from there, what I got, I now started from the top and then I'm measuring the same figure all around to save me some extra calculation. But what you will do is mark 6.1 instead of 5.1. You will still arrive at the same result. So now I'm cutting it out. And I'm going to be repeating the same thing for the middle peplum, which we're using this crepe fabric to cut as well. So next off, this is the first peplum piece. I'm going to come in by 2 inches from this corner. I'm going to give it a curve like so. This is on one side. The peplum is folded into two now, so this is like the center front that I'm curving out, and then on the other side we're just going to open it up into two. That is going to be at the back. So this is the other piece. This is the longest peplum piece. I did the same thing. I came in by 2 inches from that angle and then I curved it out. Then I opened the other end, which is going to be on the center back. So here are all the peplum pieces. I cut lining for each piece and then medium weight gum stay for each of the 3 pieces. So we're going to iron the gum stay pieces to the lining for this crepe part, and then for the Ankara piece we iron the gum stay on the Ankara itself. You need to pick a side for the lining and make it the wrong side so that you don't iron your peplum on the side where you don't iron the gum stay on the side where it's going to be the front. Because of the curve, it's going to be a bit tricky. I don't know if I'm making sense. So after ironing gum stay on all of the pieces, we're going to turn them with the lining. So I'm placing my lining here on the right side of the fabric. I'm going to take it to the machine and sew close from this point all around like so, all the way to this other end. I will repeat the same thing for all the pieces. So here they are. I've turned them with the lining. I also ironed all of them. They're looking clean and nice. So the next thing is to pin it to the fabric, pin it to the upper bodice. So what we're going to do is, here is one piece. The Ankara piece is the shortest peplum piece, that is the one that should go first. That is the one that is on the outer part. So I'm starting from the zipper side. I'm going to pin it to all the way to where it stops at the front. I think it got all the way to the dart, all the way to the dart in front, like it passed the center front to the second dart. So I'll pin this Ankara piece, Ankara peplum, then I will pin the next in line, the one that is following this one in length, and then I will pin the longest one last. So the side that you're pinning first is the side that is going to be on the outside when you finish. So if you want the overlap to face a particular direction, you pin to that direction first, then you pin the other on top of it later on. So I'm pinning the second piece now, starting from the zip line as well. Pin it all the way to the center, see what it's looking like. Then you pin the third one again, that is the longest one. So this is what we are having at the moment. You are going to repeat the same thing on the opposite side. Start from the zip side on this other end till you get to wherever it stops at the center. And this is what we are going to have at the end of the day. So I will take it to the machine, sew it, and here is it. I also added a zipper at the back, and this is what our blouse is looking like at the moment. It's beautiful, Abby. I love it. And this is the back. All the pieces are meeting where they should meet. So next up, I'll be cutting the sleeve. I'm using the soft net to cut a sleeve, but first I'm measuring the armhole all around, measuring the armhole like so. So I got about 8.5 inches from measuring this armhole. I'm measuring the second one to be sure that they are both the same. So from the 8 inches I got, I added 2 inches to that, making it 10. So I folded my fabric into 2, which gave me, making sure it's 10 inches on fold. So here I have 2 of them for both sleeves. I'm marking the length of the sleeve plus 1 inch of allowance. So the sleeve I'm working with is 25.5 plus 1 inch, that is 26.5. So I marked it. I'm going to connect like so. So on this open end, I am coming down by 4 inches, and then I'm going to make a curve like this. So next I'm measuring around that curve until I get to the 8.5 that I got when I measured the armhole, and then I'm going to add extra 2 inches for allowance. Down here I'm measuring the sleeve round. I have 8.5. I'm marking 4.25, and then another 2 inches for allowance. I'll connect both points to the upper part. So I've connected the lines and I'm cutting it out. So next I will mark on the second sleeve again, the sleeve round there 4.25, and then I measure on top here till I get to 8.5. I will connect it and then take both to the machine and sew them on those lines. But before that, I will hem the down part of the sleeve. Fold it in twice and then turn it back and join using that line. So I've joined the sleeve here. The next is to attach them to the blouse. I'm ironing on the seam that I just made. So next I'm pinning it to the blouse, matching the side seam of the sleeve to the side seam of the blouse. I'm going to pin them together, then take it to the machine and sew it. I will also use a bias strip to finish the armhole. So after sewing up the sleeve to the blouse, this is what we have. This is the inside. Everything is neat and clean, and this is what we have on the outside. That is it on how to make this beautiful blouse. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and also share it with your friends. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.